I'm Scott Cedarquist, and I'd like to welcome you to our little webinar here on standards development. Today, you're going to get to meet, if you haven't met already, all of the standards staff. In addition to me, you'll have Walter, Carla, and Jean all playing a part in this. As Jean mentioned, some of you might not have been on yet. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. And we thank all of our volunteers, the ones that are on, and all the ones that make standards development and the ASABE technical committees possible. We have about 2,000 people on the technical committees, 2,000 individuals, and they fill between 5,000 and 6,000 positions, meaning some are on more than one committee. Some serve as chairs and liaisons and other positions besides just being a member on the committee. So today's focus will be on standards development and mainly our relationship with ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, who are accredited to do standards in the US. ANSI, as well as Canada, I have to mention that we've been accredited by ANSI to do standards for decades. We just recently became accredited to do National Standards of Canada by the Standards Council of Canada. I'll mention a little bit about this in the remarks, but not go into too much detail. So I'm going to stop sharing my camera now and get more to the meat of this. Both, like I mentioned, ANSI accredits us to do standards, and they also come in and audit us periodically for the work we do as American National Standards. And if you want to really get down into the rules that we follow to do this work, you would go to the publications and standards area of the website. I'll go there. And you would look here, you've got a button for national standards. That's where we'll focus today. A little further down, we have information about our work in Canada. So under the national standards, if you click on that, this page will come up. And you can see the 4 staff, the areas that they are responsible for. So if you're in a specific technical community or a specific committee, you could find your staff support. Also on this page, if you scroll down, are a bunch of tools that we have made available. The first I wanted to mention would be the ANSI Essential Requirements. The ANSI Essential Requirements basically are the rules all the standards developing organizations in the US follow to do American National Standards. This is what we're audited to. This is what our procedures are for. In Canada, there's similar Standards Council of Canada documents. We also have our standards procedures. This is what is approved. This is what we're audited to follow. So if you really want to get down into the details and learn more about how things are done than what you hear today, this is where you would go. The last thing I would just mention here on this page would be recognized standards. And we have procedures for this both in the US and in Canada. This is a way that a committee can vote that a standard is useful without making an entire adoption, reprinting an ISO standard, for example. This is just these tools. It's kind of less time for members. It's less time for staff. So we appreciate you joining, and we look forward to learning with you here today. And please put your questions in the chat. So coming up next will be Carla, who will provide a standards development process review. So thank you and welcome, Carla.
Thank you, Scott, for that introduction. My name is Carla Companion. I'm going to be giving you a very basic process for doing the national standards work. As a reminder, this is going to be very brief. If you have any questions along the way when you are developing a standard, we are always here to help you. If you have a question at any time, feel free to contact staff. A standards project can be done on either a revision to an existing standard, or it could also be done on a brand new standard. To get to the files that you need, go back to the main page, go to the publication and standards link as Scott showed you, down to the national standards link. And if you go down on the right side, you'll see the National Standards Development Tools. Scott went over the ANSI essential requirements and the ANSI standardization procedures. I'm going to go over the basic ASABE ANSI process, which is a flow chart of the process. The blue and the yellow boxes indicate steps that are done for all standards projects. There are 3 peach bubbles on the right side.
Excuse me, Carla, can you make your screen a little smaller? It's showing really big here.
Okay.
That's better. Thank you.
Is that too far? How about that?
No, go back one.
Oops. How's that?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jean. Okay, there are 3 steps which are done for standards which are developed as an American national standards. Criteria for developing a standard as an American national standard is, we basically say, would ASABE benefit from the extra recognition that the standard would get as being an ANSI standard? Or it's possible that the project may be of interest to another organization, or the standard could be referenced within a code or a regulation, or it could also be used as a basis for a future international document. So that is usually the criteria that we use for deciding whether or not a standard should be ANSI, an American National Standard, or go through the regular process. The first step is to submit a project proposal form, which is we call a PPF form. The PPF form is initiated by, it can be initiated by an individual or a group or even an ASABE committee. It's completed by the project lead and it's forwarded to staff for review. We have 2 types of project proposal forms. One for a lack of term, we call the regular ASABE standards projects. And the other one we call an ISO PPF, which is used for the adoption of international standards. Once the PPF is completed, staff reviews it, and when it's ready to ballot, it will be going to a Community Standards Oversight Committee. These are the 03 committees, which are in the community. The 03 committee is going to be reviewing the project proposal form to ensure that the project is worth pursuing and that it's needed, and verifying that the work isn't being duplicated elsewhere within the society. And it also verifies that the consensus body or the review group who will be reviewing and approving the document has the appropriate expertise within it for developing the project. The 03 ballot is going to be a 30-day ballot. To meet approval, greater than 50% of the 03 members must vote to approve. Once the project proposal form is approved, if it is going to be an American National Standards, staff completes the first of 3 ANSI forms, the project initiation form, which is called the PINS. The PINS is used to announce the project within the weekly ANSI Standards Action newsletter. And this announcement is to inform the public and allows other interested parties or individuals to become involved with the development if they so desire. At this time, the committee will also, or the project lead will also start working on the development of the draft. The development of the actual draft could be done by an individual or a small group. There might be times where if it's an individual or even a small group, they might want to reach out to other, a larger group of committee just to review their draft. I call it getting the bugs out. Send it out for comment and review to see if anyone has any ideas to incorporate within the draft before it goes to the official ballot. Once the project lead determines that the draft is ready to be reviewed, staff will ballot the project to the consensus body for review. Normally, the consensus body is made up of an existing ASABE technical committee, but it could also be the subgroup of a committee, especially if it is a very large committee. Could also be a subgroup of the committee members peppered with subject matter experts. The same time that the draft is balloted to the consensus body, the second ANSI form is completed, which is called the BSR 8 form. This is also announced in the weekly standards newsletter. Once it is published in the standards action letter, it gives the public 45 days to decide if they want to review the draft and provide comments. Going back to the consensus body ballot, this ballot is for 30 days. And for approval, 50%, greater than 50% of the voting members of the committee and 75% of the votes received need to be for approving. During this ballot and also the review from ANSI with the BSR 8 form, comments could arise. Depending on the comments and changes done to the draft, there is a possibility of needing to ballot the draft again. If you're doing a project and there's ever any questions, staff will be there, right there to guide you and help you know what your next step will be. Once all of the comments are addressed, we take the package and go back to the Standards Oversight Committee, the 03 committee. And this time the committee is going to look and verify that the scope of the project proposal form was accomplished, that the comments submitted by the consensus body were all addressed adequately, and the approval criteria was met. And something to point out here is that the 03 committees do not provide technical input. They are only looking at the process. For approval of the 03 committee, again, it is greater than 50% of the votes received. Once the 03 committee approves the project, if it is an American National Standard, it will go through its final ANSI review. This one is actually a review by ANSI. It's called the BSR 9 form. And this is the form that ANSI reviews and determines if the project is going to be approved. And basically they're verifying that the due process was followed. Once ANSI has approved the project, staff begins work on developing the PDF for publication. We are assisted by the ASABE publication staff in doing this. Many times when you're doing your drafts, we get comments on, is this the right format? You don't really need to worry too much about the actual text being in the right format, because our publications department will take care of that as we're getting it ready. The whole process for developing a standard it depends on the standard itself and how many changes are being presented. I've seen projects go from 6 months to years, but the normal process takes about 1.5 to 2 years, unless you go through a lot of comments and have to ballot it quite a few times. Earlier I talked about the project proposal form. If you go back to the National Standards Development Tools box and go down a ways, you see the link for a project proposal form. This is the regular project proposal form. It's only a page long, not many questions, and it's not very difficult to complete. If you do have questions while you are completing it, we also have a link for the project proposal form with directions included in it. And then going back over here to the development tools box, we have the national adoption PPF form. Very similar to the regular PPF form, just has a few more questions which is associated with the actual ISO project. And again, we have a link for the international project proposal form with directions included. Well, that is all that I have to go through. I do want to stress that when you do a project, you're not alone. Staff is here to help you along the way, answer any questions that you have. And always feel free to contact staff if you have any questions. And now I am going to turn it over to Walter Brace, who will be going over the comment template. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Carla. I'm going to review the commenting template for all of you. We're going to go back to the ASABE homepage, as you can see right here, under National Standards. And again, in this handy section over here, National Standards Development Tools, we're going to go over here to the comment template, and I actually have it already brought up here. So this is actually the template that was originally developed by ISO, but we've adopted it also for national work because it's very convenient, and there is a collation tool that we use to take the individual commenting template submissions and actually collate it into a composite of everyone's comments, which is very nice. So this right here is included as an attachment to all the ballots. So when you go and vote on the ballot, it should be included in the downloads along with a draft and other documents. And make sure when you download it, you do a save as. And it's also important to save it in its original format. This is kind of an archaic document. It's a .doc document, so don't save it as a .docx, for instance, because it won't collate properly. So as you're reviewing your draft standard and you want to make comments, it's important to fill this out properly. In this first box here, you will be adding your initials for the national standard, and also identify the clause, subclause, paragraph, where the comma is actually located. It makes it easy to put things in order, but when the collation process is done, it will automatically sort your comment along with everyone else's comment in the right order. So when all the comments are actually reviewed, it's much easier to do. This column right here, type of comment, down here you can see there are three different varieties: general, technical, and editorial. This section right here, the comment box, is where you will add your the comment. Normally people go and cut and paste the section from the draft into here, and then this section here you add your proposed change. So, and I want to emphasize that comments such as needs work, I disagree, things like that, normally are ignored. You need to have a specific change that you would like to see for that particular section. Okay. And also, it's also very important to not alter the width or alter the template anyway. If you need more lines, you can always add more, like so. And each line should be one particular comment. And this will automatically expand as you add comments. Okay. And up here, you can put the date, the actual name of the document, and the project. And I want to go back now to the page here. Besides the comment template download here for you to use, and again, you can download it here, or it's also included as a download for each ballot. There's also a handy dandy how to use the comment template PDF right here, and it basically goes over what I just reviewed just now, where you put your initials, make sure you identify the clause, paragraph in this section here, type of comment.
Excuse me, Walter.
Yes.
We had a question, and I'm going to interject here because it is very relevant. When would you use a general comment instead of a technical or editorial? Might you maybe explain the difference?
Sure.
Because I know a lot of people become confused between the technical and editorial.
Right.
Especially.
For a general question, usually it means something that will apply to the entire document, versus like a specific thing. Usually the technical and editorial are targeting a specific section or location of a specific comment within the document. Editorial just, meaning grammar or spelling or something like that, and technical meaning an actual part of the document that will actually change the very nature of the standard. So it could be, a calculation or something like that would be technical. Grammar, spelling, paragraph, like orientation of the way things are shaped, things like that are editorial. And then general will be something that is not specific to a particular location of the standard of the draft, but usually for the entire document as a whole.
Yeah, and this is Jean again. I just wanted to point out the confusion between editorial and technical. If the change is, for example, the number in a formula, that is a technical change. It's not an editorial adjustment. It's a technical change. So oftentimes I see editorial comments noted as editorial, which are actually technical because it has changed a very specific requirement of the standard. So just to point that out, that not every change in word from, for example, shall to should is a technical change, because shall is a requirement, should is a suggestion. So that's actually not an editorial, but a technical change.
Right. Thank you, Jean.
This is Carla. I want to point out too that even if it's a typo and you typed it wrong within like a formula, it might really be a typo, but it has to be considered editorial because you're changing a number.
Okay. So again, this is a very handy template and instructional little one-page ditty here for filling out the form, and it can be found again on the main national standards page, how to use a common template here. Okay. I think that wraps that up.
Yeah, this is Scott. The line you have to put the line number down, but that's hardly ever done. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Correct.
Yeah, if it was a very, very, very complicated, very, very long document, a lot of, when ISO, some of them would get very lengthy. They may go to that, like for ISO 9001. But we usually don't do that.
Okay, thank you, Scott. All right, now I'll hand it over to Jean to talk about various aspects of the Engage platform.
Thanks, I was muted there. Sorry about that. Thank you, Walter. So we're good. We just jump back to our main page. Hopefully most, if not all of you, have had a chance to log into our new Engage platform, and our single sign-on coming from the ASABE website has been corrected. So what we would really encourage you to do is go to asabe.org, log in, and then at the top here where we used to have forums, we now have Engage, and you can select that and it brings you into your Engage page, and you should already be signed in there. If you go to Engage and it's your very first time, there will be a policy that you'll need to scroll to the bottom and accept, and then you will see that you are logged in. So in the case of, for this training, I am going to go to a specific committee, MS 2363, which had a ballot recently. And so because I have a lot of committees that I'm connected to, I just put it in the search, and then I go to view community. Community and committee is interchangeable in this program. So on the committee page, we have a list of the emails that have gone through. Threads are, again, the emails or discussion posts that have gone through. Library is where all of the documents that were attached to emails are posted, and we try to sort those out as they come in. We've got events, if we have any events posted, in this case not. The member list shows everyone who is a part of the committee, and it's an easy way to connect with other people. So that's just the main committee portion. When we're talking about standards, all of the standards work is going to be in this last tab called Workspace. Workspace is a separate module that's kind of tacked on. So when you go to Workspace, you'll see some duplication. Here it always defaults to the documents folder. Now we have library here, which has the documents that are attached to emails. In Workspace, the documents folder is reserved for documents that are uploaded and attached to ballots. And what the staff is going to try to do is have a separate folder for each ballot topic that we have, in this case, EP 341. Also, if you look over on the side, we have a separate roster. It's the same people that were on the members list, but in this case, the people are identified as either observing, being a non-voter, or a voting member. Here you see a voter here. And also, if they are a voter, their interest area is identified. And if they have a position, an officer position, that is identified here. In this case here, you see it says past chair. When we are looking at the members list, the officers are not identified in the members list. So we have identified them for your committees on the main page. Just a little aside information there. Going back to Workspace, again, it defaults to your documents. So comments is if you have comments on any of your documents, that's where that will be posted, but we really don't encourage that. It's a default of the program. But we're going to go to the ballots. In this case, there was one ballot posted. It was a maintenance review when we were still setting this up. And we're going to use this as our example. So when you have a ballot in a committee, you'd go to Workspace, click on the ballot. Here is the title. Here is when it opens, when it closes, your description, what's expected of you. And then you have options to vote. Now, if you are a voting member, you will see these options and have the opportunity to register your vote. You'll also be able to submit comments if you'd like, or upload that comment template if you fill that out that Walter demonstrated for you. Also on this page, you see all of the documents that were associated with this ballot, and those are easily downloaded right here. They were also all available in that folder that we just looked at up in the documents at the top, and we'll be going back to that shortly. So this ballot has closed. I do want to point out that if you get to one of these ballots and you see that it says ineligible, that means that you are a non-voting member of the committee. You still have access to what the ballot says, to the voting options, to all of the download and all the documents that are being presented. You just cannot register a vote. In our previous platform forums, we were not able to differentiate voters from non-voters. So we allowed everyone to vote. But in reality, the non-voters, the observers, their votes were not counted because we need to have specifically identified voting members in every committee to provide for that balance that is part of the review of the 03 committee. We can only have so many people from a single organization. We can't have more than a certain percentage who are manufacturers or educators, for example. So we have to make sure that there is a balance so that there isn't any one industry that is taking precedence over another. That's part of our ANSI accreditation. So here, and this again, for the non-voters as well as the voters, is all available. If you wanted to see how the voting is going, you could go down to voter detail and you would see who voted. Here's the interest category: producer, academia, general interest, etc. And in this column, it notes that 2 people had comments that they uploaded. If you'd like to see what their comments are, we go down to this next tab, and here are the comments that they submitted. If, as a non-voter, you have comments, if you downloaded a comment template and you've reviewed the document and you would like to share your comments, we certainly are open and encouraging of that, because while you are not officially a voter on the project, all comments are accepted and responded to. So if you are a non-voter, you've downloaded your comment template, you've done your review, you've filled out the comment template, what you do is come back in here, go to documents. I'm going to show you how to add this. In this case, like I said, we can select the project that we're working on, and I'm going to select add. And here I will do a test, and I want to add a file. So let's see, I want to go, I have it on my desktop. I have a file. If I can find it quickly here, here we go. And I'm going to select that file. So it's added right here. If I want to put a description, I can put that in there, or any additional comments that you'd like to add for the benefit of the people who are on the committee, whether they're voters or observers, they'll see that. I don't have anything to add here. If there's a little red asterisk, that's a requirement. So in this case, I had to choose my folder. It's already been selected. And the draft is a comment template. We're just going to say that. Moving down, if I don't want this to be emailed to the entire committee, which we would really prefer not to because it's a little bit of spamming, we would uncheck that box. Again, any other comments you want to put, and then you add the document. It uploads your document into that folder. And so if I go back to documents and into this folder, I will see that document here. And it can be downloaded by anyone so they can see your comments. Now, I wanted to very quickly bring up when a ballot is completed. We have a new format for our ballot summary, which are the results of the ballot. And this is what's going to look like. It prints us a spreadsheet. And here are the 2 comments that were submitted. And here is the total of how many people voted to reaffirm this, and who voted, what they voted, who did not vote. And these are the voting members. If we had observing members who submitted comments or wanted to make some sort of a support or non-support of the document, we would add those below with some detail. We didn't in this case. Another thing I wanted to point out is that when a ballot is posted, and this is for both voting and non-voting members, we generally tell the voting members when the ballot opens and when it closes. And for non-voters, we will let you know when it opens, and you can go in and find out if it's still open if you wish. You will get an email, and this is pretty much what it looks like. It has a link here to take you directly into that ballot itself. What I would suggest is if you do get this email, what you do is first log into ASABE, and from there into Engage, because you do need to be logged in to Engage in order to go directly into this ballot, and then come back to your email and click on the link, and that will drive you right straight into the ballot. But from here also, you can see what the ballot has to say. And as long as you're logged into Engage, you can, from this email, download your documents. So that's really very handy. And I think that's about all I have on the workspace site. I do want to say that we've been working with the Engage platform for a few months now. There are still glitches. We understand that. And if you see something, please say something, because that's the only way we're going to know that you're having some issues or concerns with it, and the only way we're going to be able to fix that. I did have something I wanted to point out, and I just got this question the other day. If you were to look at the roster in Workspace, you'll notice that some people have their company noted and most people do not. What we found after the fact was that there are codes that are being pulled from our database. Some of them are effective and some of them are not. So if they are not effective, we have to remove them from an individual's account, because if we don't remove them, the individual will not show up. We're still trying to work on that, and it might take a while. So until then, people are noted as individuals. So we do apologize for that, but we will be trying to upload the actual roster, which will show companies and all of the interest areas as well. I think we are to the point where we're going to be ending the recording shortly so that we can take some questions. I do want to note that we do have another webinar scheduled on Wednesday, same time, that will deal with just a high-level explanation of ISO and the ISO standards development process, which is similar but different. So if you're interested, please revert to the email that had the registration link for this webinar, and you'll find a link for that second webinar. If you don't have that email any longer, you're always welcome to email me, Jean Walsh at asabe.org, and I'm happy to send that registration link on to you.